Time for public comment. I want to respect the time of everyone who's here, and I appreciate those who are come to speak and who have come to listen. Our public comment time is governed by a board policy which provides that there is a limitation to 5 minutes, and Ms. Douglas will be putting up some cards to indicate when you've hit 3 minutes, and then when your time is done, and out of respect, I will go ahead and cut you off of that time. You can always provide information in writing to the board that goes beyond that time. Also want to note that it is the policy of the board that you not speak about any teachers or students directly or indirectly during this time. Because we have so many people who have signed up to speak, and we also have a limitation in time in our policy, I'm going to have Ms. Martin talk a little bit about how we're going to manage the next portion.
Hi, first of all, wow, thank you for being here. I mean, this might be the most I've ever seen signed up. It's a lot of people. It's exciting, and we want to hear what you have to say. With the 5-minute limit, you could keep it to 3 minutes. That would be okay. I think you can say a lot in 3 minutes. Also, if everybody took 3 to 5 minutes, we would be exceeding an hour. And so one request that I make to the groups, because there seems to be 2 primary topics. Of course, everybody is welcome to come up to the podium and speak. And one strategy I've seen work well for groups is that if somebody before you said the points that you want to make, that just coming up and saying, I second that, or I agree with those points, and leave it at that. If you have additional information that would add to the statement, then we're happy to hear that. And if it's a repeat, then you could simply state that you're there offering support and in agreement. So just a couple of requests. Thank you.
When you come forward, I want you to state your name and your address for the record. I'm going to try to group you. Let's start with those who are here to talk about pesticides first, and then we'll move to those who are talking about budget. If I don't call you, please don't let time go by without you getting your chance to speak. Do we have someone who wants to start first on the pesticides? Step forward then. Go ahead. Yes, please.
Good evening. My name is Courtney Neron, and I live at 29160 Southwest Bergen Lane. I have 2 children at Boones Ferry Primary. Non-Toxic Wilsonville would like you to watch a quick video. We don't want chemicals around our children's schools. This video features Dr. Dean Baker, Non-Toxic Irvine Science and Health Advisor. Dr. Baker is a professor at UC Irvine and recently served as the director of the Center for Occupational and Environmental Health at the university. Thank you.
Scientific research on the effects of pesticide exposure during the in utero period or gestational period linked exposure to pesticides to later childhood cancers. Children are developing rapidly, and pesticides and other chemicals can interfere with that development. Chemicals that can get into the body can cross the blood-brain barrier, which is not completely protected, so it can get to the brain. The other fact is that children are more susceptible because they're actually exposed more. Children crawl around on the ground. They have more hand-to-mouth behaviors. So they're actually more exposed. They get more into the body. They're more susceptible. There's been a body of research. They've shown a whole range of outcomes. Some lower IQ among children who are exposed gestationally or shortly after birth, and behavioral development such as ADHD. And so they've shown associations with leukemia and with brain tumors with pesticide exposures in children. Pesticides are designed to kill. They have many different mechanisms of being toxic. While children, we've talked about, are more susceptible, adults are also going to be affected with exposure to the pesticides. With pets, in many ways, they also have behaviors like young children that can increase their exposure. The regulatory structure in the United States has a long, sad history. And so for many of the pesticides that are most commonly used out there, they had almost no testing. Pesticides shouldn't ever have been considered safe because the whole point of pesticides is to kill. So pesticides have always been selected because they were toxic. Also within the spectrum of pesticides, we've had histories where a pesticide like DDT was used extremely widely because it was considered essentially non-toxic. And as we know, it's been associated with cancer, devastating impacts on the environment. In fact, was eventually banned. So what we've been talking about is really, what are the hazards of pesticides? What are the concerns about pesticides? What can we do with this information? And what we should do with this information is we should take a more health protective approach to our environment. So we all love the environment of Irvine, but we want Irvine to be a truly safe and healthful city. And the important thing to understand is that there are options. It's not that you have to heavily use pesticides in order to maintain the postcard picture perfect Irvine that we know and take care of our environment.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Bob Johnson. I'm one of the board members of Non-Toxic Irvine, and now we're changing our name to Non-Toxic Neighborhoods because it has really grown. It all started in May of 2000.
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Will you please state your address for the record?
Yes, my address is 66 Pathstone, Pathstone. It's one word. Irvine has strange street names. It's in Irvine, California. It started in May of 2015. Residents, really parents, went to the school board for Irvine Unified School District and demanded that they ban Roundup and 2,4-D. The school board listened to a packed house. It was there were well over 100 people that attended in a very small room. They didn't take any action, but coincidentally, a couple days later, the World Health Organization came out with their statement about Roundup and glyphosate, specifically glyphosate, not Roundup, being potentially and probably carcinogenic. So the superintendent immediately then banned Roundup and glyphosate in the school district, along with 2,4-D immediately. Several months later, actually for me, I'm retired. My wife asked me to be involved. I joined the PTSA at our children's school. And I was asked several months later to join a group of several people who wanted to expand this whole program with the school district. And so I volunteered to do that. And so as we got together, we realized that we really needed to go much further than just these particular toxic chemicals, that we really needed to look at IUSD, Irvine Unified School District, and even the city of Irvine to go organic. So we met with the maintenance staff. They were a little reluctant. Actually, when the school district took the step they did, they got lots of phone calls from people across Southern California wondering what they did. Are you crazy doing this? And in essence, they said, no, we're going to go forward with it. They went up to LAUSD, which a Unified School District, where they had 130 chemicals they used and cut it down to 30. So they thought they would go up and find out what the impact was. They came back inspired and decided to be the gold standard in the state of California and go totally organic. From there, because in Irvine, the school district and the city, they share facilities. The parks are adjacent to the school facilities. And there's no fencing, there's no boundary. So if the school district were to ban these pesticides and the school didn't, or the city didn't, it didn't make any sense. So then we went to the city. We worked with staff initially, worked with the council, and within 30 days, the council adopted a policy which went on top of an existing integrated pest management program. And so the policy basically stated your number one goal is to go organic. We want you to have an IPM program that's organically oriented, and if you have to go down to some of these other more toxic types of chemicals, it's only at a last resort and in emergency situations. From that point forward, we had both the city and the school district going organic. It kind of spread from there, and other cities and school districts contacted us, and specifically within school districts. Right now, we're working with Newport Mesa. At first, they totally rejected the idea, and now my guess is they could become the gold standard. They are moving very, very quickly, and they're looking at applications to control weeds and other kinds of invasives with no chemicals at all, using steam water that's been tested for a year at Long Beach School District, and they've collected data on it, and it's been very successful, and they've cut costs by 50%. So this whole program, and we're really happy that Wilsonville contacted us. What we do is provide support. We put together a playbook. We've had success down in Carlsbad, San Juan Capistrano, Tustin. I don't know, it just goes on. I'm running out of time here. Okay, just so anyway, thank you very much. It's worth considering. And just the last thing is that with the Irvine Unified School District and their test program, it was cost neutral over a year. Thank you.
Ms. Ham?
Katie Ham. I live at 29554 Southwest Milano Lane in Wilsonville. There's a saying that goes, if you want to build a brick house, you have to start with bricks. We all share the common goal of wanting to build healthy children who can learn and grow without the risks of toxins in the communities that they learn and grow in. This has to start at the very chemical levels of not only their bodies, but our bodies. Cumulative exposure is a real risk, especially for our children whose endocrine systems and all their bodily systems are developing. While I understand that the board will not be able to grant our request to put non-toxic landscaping and IPM on the agenda until this summer, I do want to press forward with our request for a temporary ban on glyphosate, 2,4-D, and dicamba until these can be further explored and discussed.
Ms. Fisher?
I live at 11188 Southwest Barber Street. Being in the horticulture field for 14 years, I know firsthand how harmful these pesticides can be. I recently continued my education and attended the 36th National Pesticide Forum. I had the opportunity to learn from those on the cutting edge of pesticide research and from practitioners on implementation of plans for organic management practices without toxic pesticides. It is frightening to know that we are still allowing endocrine disrupting and carcinogenic pesticides on our school grounds. There are so many proven, safer, and cost-effective options out there that will not harm our children, pets, or the environment. Please, let's use common sense, real science, and remove these pesticides from our school grounds now. Thank you.
Ms. Clausen?
Good evening. I'm Mary Clausen. I live at 11692 Southwest Palermo Street in Wilsonville. I've been a wellness advocate for the last 8 years, specializing in preconception and infant care. I want to add on to Bob's statement. He will not only be here visiting Wilsonville, but tonight he leaves for Eugene, Talent, and Ashland, Oregon, where those communities have asked him and schools to meet with him. So the word is spreading in Oregon. We thought it would be helpful to bring you up to date on recent media going on. I mean, you can hardly open up a health brochure or document without reading about toxic chemicals. So I'm going to read excerpts from 3 recent articles just in the last 3 weeks that came out in major media. The first one is from The Guardian, dated Monday, April 30th. The headline is "Weed Killer Found in Granola and Crackers, Internal FDA Emails Show." The FDA has been testing food samples for traces of glyphosate for 2 years, but the agency has not yet released any official results. U.S. government scientists have detected a weed killer linked to cancer in an array of commonly consumed foods, emails obtained through a Freedom of Information request show. The FDA has been testing food samples for residues of glyphosate, the active ingredient in hundreds of widely used herbicide products, for 2 years, but has not yet released any official results. Calls for testing grew after the International Agency for Research on Cancer classified glyphosate as a probable human carcinogen in 2015. Along with glyphosate, the agency has been trying to measure residues of the herbicides 2,4-D and dicamba because of projected increased use of these weed killers on the new genetically engineered crops. The second article, dated April 17th from Reuters, reports on what Germany's doing. The headline is "Germany Moving Ahead with Plans to Restrict Weed Killer Glyphosate." From Berlin, German Agriculture Minister Julia Klöckner on Tuesday said she was finalizing a draft regulation to end the use of the weed killer glyphosate in household gardens, parks, and sports facilities, and to set massive limits for its use in agriculture. The chemical made by Monsanto is at the center of a heated debate in Europe over whether it causes cancer. Chancellor Angela Merkel, conservatives, and the center-left Social Democrats agreed in February to systematically and significantly limit its use, with the goal of entirely ending the use of the products that contain it, but they have not yet set a time frame. And lastly, this is from the SF Gate. It's a news website based in San Francisco with 30 million unique monthly subscribers. This headline reads, "The state can label widely used herbicide as a possible carcinogen," dated April 19th. The internal documents obtained by The Guardian show that the FDA has had trouble finding any food that does not carry traces of glyphosate. That's any food. A state appeals court on Thursday backed California's listing of the widely used herbicide glyphosate as a possible cause of cancer and the state's prohibition against discharging it into public waterways. So think about that as you think about the runoff into our rivers and streams. The chemical is the main ingredient in Monsanto's Roundup weed killer. Citing new findings by the IARC, which I mentioned earlier, state health officials added glyphosate to their list of potential carcinogens in July 2017 under Proposition 65, which is one of the most robust lists of data lists for carcinogens. It's a 1986 initiative that requires warnings of exposure to products that pose a risk of cancer. The voters approved Proposition 65, which named the IARC, a cancer research arm of the World Health Organization, as the body to identify cancer-causing substances. The U.S. and 24 other nations belong to a council that governs this agency. I'd like to join my colleagues from Non-Toxic Wilsonville in asking for a temporary ban on glyphosate, 2,4-D, and dicamba. Thank you.
Mr. Springham?
Hi, I'm Simon Springle of 7577 Southwest Playhouse Drive in Wilsonville. I have 2 sons at Wilsonville High, who are juniors. I also coach the chess club at Lowry Elementary. But as you know, I'm here to talk just briefly about pesticides, and I won't repeat what's already been said, but I think the idea of IPM, Integrated Pest Management, is something we need to look at very, very carefully. And as you may know, it's actually the law in Wilsonville that schools
I know you come regularly, and I still can't get your name right. Aaron Shabak.
Hi, I'm Erin Chabuk. I live at 1835 Bay Meadows Drive. This is my daughter. Prior to joining Non-Toxic Wilsonville at the beginning of last month, I had been in contact with the board about the idea of starting some weed pulling parties as at least a temporary solution to this problem. We were directed to contact principals at the individual schools, which some of us did. We were in the process of starting to get organized, communicating with district staff and coordinating in that manner. I left for spring break and found out when I came back that more applications had occurred. So I was disappointed, to say the least, to find that out. West Linn-Wilsonville is spraying large amounts of pesticide in places where our children are playing. I think people assume that if pesticides are being used, that they are being used, along curb lines and along fences. I know that's what the notices say, but our children are playing in the areas that are being sprayed. They aren't technically part of the playground, but it's around trees. It's a few feet from the playground where balls are rolling. Kids are rolling, digging in the dirt. I brought a few pictures for you all to take a look. These are from Trillium Creek Primary School. As you can see in the pictures, like I said, there are students digging in the dirt, standing in the areas, rolling through the areas. This is not just a small use of pesticide at our schools. And I understand as well that it takes some time to get an alternative plan in place, but we are asking you to take action now. The notice that I received says that there will be continued applications over the summer. Consensus is clearly growing that this is a public health concern, and you are the people who can make this choice to protect our children. So I would ask you to please consider doing that now.
Trisha Gorisco.
Hi, my name is Trisha Garisco. I live at 3850 Kemthorpe Way in West Linn, and I have a daughter at Rosemont and 2 kids at Cedar Oak Primary. And I would just like to ask the board to just really ask yourselves, why do we use the products that we're using right now? What is the goal? Is it aesthetics? Is it maintenance? Is it easy? These products are ineffective. They kill plants for a little while, but then you have to keep applying them because the things grow back. So they're ineffective. They're expensive, very expensive. And it could be more cost effective to just mow more often, more frequently, and possibly use weed eaters along the fringes. I appreciate that it's been limited to the pathways and the fence lines. But these areas are still in the kids' boundaries. I've seen them sitting with their feet in it. I've seen them picking dandelions right on the perimeter. And so I wonder about drift. When a kid is picking up a dandelion and putting it in their mouths, I do worry that they're getting more exposure than they need to, and for why. So I just asked if the board could just be very thoughtful about why we're using the products that we're using. Thank you.
I think that was everybody on the pesticide use, is that correct? Okay, Mr. House. Oh, I will note that the board is going to put pesticide use in our integrated pest management on the agenda this summer, and I will be notifying, certainly it will be put on our agenda and you'll see that, but I'll try to notify some of the key people who I've been in contact with in advance, so you will know when that's going on. Thank you. Sorry, thank you, sir.
Good evening. There's 3 of us here representing the West Linn Alliance for Inclusive Community. Cynthia Flannery at 1054 Meek Way, West Linn, Marty Mahog at 1756 Regency Street in West Linn, and myself, Bill House, at 3483 Cascade Terrace in West Linn. We're here this evening with a request that you consider funding in next year's budget for the collection and analysis of data to support our schools' equity teams. Now, the West Linn Alliance for Inclusive Community supports the district's implementation of these teams in all of our schools. We believe these teams can have significant impact on academic achievement across the district. We also believe they can provide the schools with a more inclusive and diverse environment. We believe that recognition and acceptance of diversity within each of our schools does provide educational benefit, and it also creates a more positive learning environment. Now, within each of our schools, our equity teams are charged with identifying and eliminating systemic bias, achievement gaps, and opportunity gaps. Removing these barriers to learning will ensure that personal or social circumstances such as race, gender, sexual orientation, ethnic background, disability, socioeconomic status, or family background are not obstacles to our children achieving their full educational potential. We think that effective implementation of these equity teams within every school is meeting the #1 stated goal for the district this year. And I'm quoting that was to grow student achievement through the use of high leverage instructional strategies that raise rigor and generate equitable outcomes for all students while eliminating opportunity and achievement gaps. West Linn Alliance believes that effective identification of systemic bias, opportunity gaps, or other barriers to learning requires the systematic collection of data. These data are essential, both in identifying where we have achievement or opportunity gaps, and then in implementing a plan or program to deal with them. Without the data and a basis for understanding these problems, we fear that the process of identifying equity issues in the academic setting will become a reactive process, not a proactive process like we believe it should be. Individual schools and the district as a whole need to be able to distinguish between what is an individual student issue and what is an issue that's affecting a population of students. The Westland Alliance for Inclusive Communities supports funding in the 2018-19 budget for a district-wide effort to proactively collect and analyze equity-related data. This effort would include funding appropriate positions to centrally coordinate the work and to collaborate with individual schools to ensure that we're getting input from students, teachers, counselors, administrators, and parents. The recent school culture survey conducted by the staff equity team at Wood Middle School represents data collection that's very useful in identifying problems that can then be addressed through curriculum, planning, or other programs. We support the concept that the district has that the equity teams at each school will all operate slightly differently to meet the needs of those schools. However, that doesn't negate the need for some robust data collection out here. Accurate data is the first step towards making informed decisions. Without that data, the district and the individual schools run the risk of inefficiently or ineffectively focusing our valuable resources. So I would say that collection and analysis of data, appropriate data, district-wide in the coming school year would be a very good way to position our equity teams, which we have set up and established this year, for success. Success at the individual schools and success across the district. We would urge you to consider funding this effort, because without the data and without a baseline to start, we really have a difficult way in understanding whether we're achieving our goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fernandez, welcome back.
I am Rob Fernandez. My address is 16530 Southwest Edmonston Road in Wilsonville. I'm here tonight representing a group of folks, about 21 parents in our district. During my time on the board, I had such noble causes as AstroTurf fields and cell towers. And recently, I had an opportunity to have a different something touch my life through a friend, and that's mental illness. Understanding you guys have a Herculean task in front of you in terms of all these competing needs for funds, and understanding how the district operates in terms of weaving different themes and different initiatives into those decisions. What I just want to do is just to be a little voice as you go through your deliberations and as you make decisions regarding resource and where programmatically things are going to happen. You know, if one of our students walked through the door with a laceration or a broken bone, we'd be trampling over each other to go help that person. Fortunately, with mental illness, the symptoms don't present that way. And obviously there's a spectrum where on one hand it can be a lack of achievement, on another, you know, antisocial behavior that hurts oneself or another. So all I'm asking for is as you deliberate and kind of think through the budget, just kind of keep that message, could. I know you guys will do a good job. You guys commend the work you've done, the board leadership, and you guys have been around the block. So, and this group will be behind you, but we just want to get that message out. We're going to send a little letter just so you know who some of the people are in case you cross paths with them at school events and whatnot. But anyway, that's it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. I would quickly note, Mr. Fernandez, that the board has in both of the joint meetings with the City of Wilsonville and the City of West Linn raised the issue of mental health funding in our communities. So it is on our minds. Thank you. I think, Mr. McCabe. Anybody else out there? Wave your hand if I didn't call you. Okay.
John McCabe, 435 Southwest Michael Lane, Westland, Oregon, 97068. My part of the budget is looking at the agenda for today, saying that there will be a decrease in funds this year. We will only get a $1.5 million increase, but it's still an increase. What we have to look at is if you go back to the already audited 16-17 year, last year, as I stated it before the Budget Committee, we got an $8 million increase in local option and from the state. And so technically we have $9.5 million over what we had in 16-17. And in 16-17, we were able to save $2.9 million for a PERS reserve, which may sound good, except all the students that we have here, they have such a short time in our schools. They say we need to save money for the future without giving everything we need to the kids of today is shortchanging them, and it's shortchanging the public. Money we collect should be spent. And unfortunately, this is pretty late in the game. You really need to look at these issues back in January. And the minute they start realizing that we have additional revenue, or our revenue is such that we could add, as I call it now, new ways of educational opportunities. It doesn't have to mean hiring teachers, it just means educational opportunities. And if they cost money, they don't necessarily bring teachers into the classroom. And if we don't find out money quick enough, such as what is going to be reported later today as the additional revenue that's been collected for this year, that's a lost opportunity. There will be a change in certain people next year, and maybe the person that comes in will take that into account, that they need to bring what is known as soon as possible so that educational opportunities aren't missed. And as far as educational opportunities, they are good in this district, as my daughter's finding out. And we will not mention what she's in because they told me I cannot. But she says we have more opportunities in this district than others. And the main thing for our people in our district is to take advantage of, and the board is to take advantage and deliver these opportunities so we do stay a good school district. Thank you.
And thank you, everyone who came, who stayed through this time, and for your comments. The board appreciates it. Are we on consent agenda then? I'm going to move B1 off the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda minus B1.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Dylan Huggs.
Abstain.
Kelsey Martin.
Yes.
Ginger Fitch.
Yes.
Betty Reynolds.
Aye.
Reagan Molitor.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Killstrom, is that right? Before we do that, I am an attorney who represents parents and students in the district. If something comes before the board that specifically would impact my client, I would abstain from participating in discussion or decisions on that without revealing the name of my client. Please.
All right, well, this is my first time getting to speak with the school board since being hired back in September, so thank you for giving me some time tonight to share some of the work I've been doing as well as our entire district. This is, as you can imagine, a district-wide effort that requires all of our schools to do the terrific job that they do on a daily basis. So I'm going to share a little bit of what we've been working on this year and kind of what we have coming up planned for next year as well. So thank you for board goal number 3. That has been a real driving force for the communications department this year as we think about how we can better interact and connect with our students. So if you look at board number 3 up there, board goal number 3, it says operate in an accessible and transparent manner that encourages and fosters community involvement as our parents, students, and community partners are an integral and valued voice in our district. Terrific goal and something that we have really taken to heart this year. As you can see below there is the District Action Plan 3.1, Strategy 3.1, and that's just a little evidence of what we've been working on. So we're looking to improve two-way communication from district, schools, and community stakeholders. So not just pushing information out, but taking feedback as well and making sure questions are answered and information is known. Then another big thing that I think you noticed probably back in December, and this is a testament to Kurt Nelson and the IT team, we have a new district and school website templates that launched over winter break. We've received a lot of feedback, mostly positive, and we continue to reorganize and kind of update our website across the board, whether it's safety and security, whether it's press releases, whether it's district news, just trying to keep it up to date and make sure the community knows that's where they can go to find whatever information they want to seek is. Go. So starting as a communications director this year, my mission for the school year really first was, thankfully I had a pretty good basis and understanding of what this district was all about. But I still wanted to take some time to kind of review and assess where our communications were. I knew that at a school level, we do a great job. That's a testament to our principals, to our secretaries, to our teachers, who on a daily basis really do go that extra mile to make sure parents feel involved and know what's happening at their school. Where I saw an obvious room for improvement was at the district level. There was, people were busy. My position didn't exist previously, and there was room for improvement in sharing what's happening at this level. And then ensuring that communication is consistent and aligns at the school level as well. So the number one thing was increase frequency and quality of district communications as well as clarity. So right off the bat, we were able to implement some additional communication channels, which we'll get into in a little bit here. And then another goal was to increase parent and community connection and involvement. I think we've done a pretty good job at that, but there is definitely room for improvement. I think of upcoming events like health curriculum renewal parent forum, which is coming up next week. Our high school study parent forum is coming up just a week after that. So there are many ways in which we're attempting to do that, but we'll continue to do that in the future as well. Another part of my role, which comes with my previous experience, is coordinate with media. I think that's been helpful for our principals in knowing that if they get a public records request or get just a request in general, they know they can call me and we can work together to make sure everyone has the necessary information. And it's also been helpful in that we get to highlight our schools. I tell people all the time I have the easiest, best job in the world because all I get to do on a daily basis is share the amazing stories and highlights that our students are a part of every single day. Working for, I would say, the top district in Oregon, it's quite a joy to come to work every day and get to do that on a daily basis. So this is just a few, this is kind of a list of some of the ways we are currently communicating, some of which are new. So you see at the top is district website. We really want folks to know that if you need information, the hope is that it exists there somewhere. We spent a lot of time this year reorganizing, trying to make it as cohesive and easy to navigate as possible. We know we have some work there to do still. We know that listserv email is still our #1 preference for parents and stakeholders. That is how we communicate at the school level in particular, and we've received countless feedback that it is effective. Flash alert for inclement weather and emergency notifications. We send phone calls for student absences, low lunch balances, and emergency notifications. That's through our school messenger system, which additionally has, which we launched just a couple weeks ago, SMS text alerts. So we'll see that more and more this year and then going into next year as well, and it's something we've heard from parents is valued. Then we have, of course, our West Linn-Wilsonville Community Update newsletter, which we launched at the beginning of the year, as well as school board briefs. And then individual schools have their newsletters, and we know that parents really value finding out what's happening in their school, what's coming up through those as well. We also have social media for the first time this year. Facebook and Twitter are the two big ones. We also have a YouTube page. And then we make sure to send public press releases multiple times a week, whether it's local media, city officials, just trying to be as relevant in the community as we can be. And then, of course, like I said, utilizing our schools. They do a great job at communicating with parents. They have for years, and just continuing to evaluate and assess and find out where we can do better. So I wanted to take a moment to look at our West Linn-Wilsonville Community Update. It is new this year. We use SMORE as the service. Hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at one or two this year. And it's helpful for us in that, one, it's aesthetically pleasing. It allows for brief highlights with more links and embedded information, lots of bright, colorful pictures, but it also provides a lot of data and analytics. I'm able to see how many times a newsletter is viewed, how long people spend reading, what parts they are paying attention to, and it provides a lot of just input that is good for future communications, and also being able to relay to staff areas we might need to do more or less. That is a bi-weekly newsletter, and we're, as you can see up there, averaging about 1,000 views per edition, which is a number I'd like to see grow, but is pretty steady at this point, so it's a nice base. And then, of course, we have school board briefs, which we'll send out another edition tomorrow. I'm sure people are looking forward to it. That actually gets about 800 views per edition as well, so it's pretty similar to the community update. And then as you see on the bottom, kind of some exciting news from our department. What we're excited about is we're actually going to get this newsletter in schools, hopefully across the board next year. Our 9 primary schools for sure will use the SMORE format, so something to look forward to. Social media, I'll try to make this quick, as social media is always a fun topic. Our Facebook page has just over 1,100 follows, which doesn't sound like a huge number when you think that we have 10,000 students in our district, but the fact that that's all organic growth, we haven't had to pay for anything, is I think we're doing a fine job at this point. We would like to see that grow in coming school years. We try to post 1 to 3 times per day, and statistics show that we're reaching about 3,000 people per week. And our engagement is actually half that, 1,500, that's a good number. That's people that are liking our posts, commenting on our posts, sharing our posts, watching our videos that we post. So that's a pretty healthy number. I like that one. And then Twitter, we have not as much of a following with 300, but Twitter is key for us in that it lets us connect with local law enforcement. It lets us connect with local media. We can send a message out there, and maybe in the event of an emergency, and that's kind of a nice way to send out mass notifications. It's also nice in that you might have noticed on a few of our school websites, currently 8 of 16 principals have their own Twitter account, which they are updating regularly with classroom pictures or little pop-ins to the classroom, which kind of refreshes the website and also gives parents an idea of what's happening in the classroom. So we're hoping to get 16 of 16 schools on board next year, and it's another thing to look forward to. And then we did launch a communication survey mid-week last week. To date, we actually have about 200 responses I was looking at this afternoon, and we're going to continue to hope to get more and more of those. But really, it was a pretty short, quick survey, but it wanted to get a quick snapshot of how are our schools doing, but more importantly, how is our district doing. So as you can see, it's a pretty wide variety of schools. We had representation from across the district, which I was happy to see. If we go to the next slide. This was for our school communications. Data that I was not at all surprised to see, that parents feel across the board very informed. So we see more than 90% feel at least somewhat informed, which, ideally you would like 100% very informed, but it's nice to know that parents feel like there is that level of communication. And then on the left there you see just a few of the takeaways from comments. We know that listserv is #1 preference. Newsletters are informative and helpful for event planning and also finding out what's happened lately. And also I was pleased to see that many comments about strong teacher communication, especially at the primary level. There's an ask that we continue to keep websites up to date at the school and district level, and that brief is often better. Sometimes we, as educators, have a tendency to provide a whole lot of information when maybe little snippets is easier to kind of digest and take away. From a district level communications perspective, I asked parents or stakeholders to kind of rank the method of communication they most prefer. As you can see, 63% prefer listserv, which is a big number, and it's nice to know that parents appreciate that level of communication. And then 34% prefer the newsletter, so it's also nice to know that it's resonating with folks. While the district website was only #1 for 10% of people, it was good to see that they ranked 70% of folks ranked it second or third. And then 70% of people use social media, but only for those student highlights, which is what I would want. You know, we don't want them relying on social media for these important school happenings, but seeing some of the fun stories is what that platform is really meant for. Additional feedback from that survey, as you can see there is some ask for printed or mailed information, which is something we'll look into. That's an expensive endeavor, but there might be some value there. Continued reorganization of the website, and we saw across the board an appreciation for those text alerts, which will increase as we go. A big part of that survey was around safety and security. As you know, that's been a district priority this year. First, we wanted to see, are people actually receiving the information we're sending out? 83% said yes. I would hope that's 100% as we get to the end of the year and into next year. And people said it was mostly clear. So 53% said extremely clear, 17 mostly, and 19 somewhat. So about 90% of people found it valuable. There was an ask for more videos or brief summaries, not that thick, dense information, but stuff that's easy to chew on. We do have one emergency protocol video we were able to put together over spring break, and we'll work on putting some more of those together going into the summer and next year. And then goals. Obviously, the goal is always to do better, improve quality, frequency, and just continue to connect with the community. We will continue to reorganize the website. You know, we get feedback almost daily of, you know, I couldn't find this, or I wish this was here, and that's all helpful. We'd like to grow our readership, both on the website and our social media platforms. And something we'll work on, hopefully before the start of next year, is implement best practices for social media across the district. As we know, that can be a liability just as much as it can be, you know, a benefit. So that's something we will, it's something we're talking about as a staff right now and at the school level as well. And then we'll continue to refine that safety and security messaging and increase community collaboration. I think that's always a goal. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Andrew. I want to recognize the district. When we came in last summer, the board said this was important to us, that communication be improved with the district, and Dr. Ludwig, you and your staff have really embraced that, and I want to personally thank you and Andrew for really taking this on in an aggressive way and really improving what the district is doing. So thank you. The question I have is, those numbers are interesting when you ask the parents about how they feel about being informed about what's happening in the district. Mm-hmm. And it looks like about 81% or about 85% of people say it's, you know, a 3 or to 5, which seems pretty positive. Do we have an idea of what a baseline was? So that's what it is now. Has that improved from a year or two ago, or were we not measuring it then?
We were not. That I wish just as much as you did that we had that baseline so we could see, is this growth, or is this just where we were at a year ago? Okay. This is something from now on we'll continue to track and make sure you know, those numbers are going up. Okay. And the numbers, I suspect that if we did have a baseline, you know, it would show something like that. But do you have a sense, are you getting much anecdotal information from people saying, this is great, this is fantastic, I'm liking it, or constructive criticism, and why aren't you doing this? What kind of feedback are you getting from people on this? So I was pleased that feedback was mostly positive. I had no idea what we were going to get back, but there were a lot of suggestions for improvement, specifically at the district level. A lot of it was, like I mentioned, being more brief and concise. It's interesting, you hear from parents that some want more information and some want far less. So it's what's that happy medium. You know, we know that parents and families and students care about their school first, probably more so than at the district level. But what is that happy medium? What do parents need to know and want to know? And the anecdotal feedback was very helpful. I'd be happy to share the survey with you, with the entire board. There was a lot we can take from it. And,
Okay. Thank you, Andrew.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Let's see here. Curious that I have my assumption of who the target audience is, but can you speak a little bit to your primary target audience with your communication efforts?
So number one is our parents. Those are our key stakeholders. But something that sometimes we forget about, I think, is our students too. You know, we want to communicate with our students and have them feel like they're part of the system, part of decision-making processes, know what's going on, and that's key. But you know, aside from those two groups, we also want to reach the community. We know the community is a huge part of our school district. They provide us with a great many resources and partnerships, and they're also, you know, our voters when it comes for bond season, and we want them to be as engaged and feel part of our school district because they're incredibly important to the work we do.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that. I was definitely thinking, obviously, parents, and was wondering if the students and the larger community was on your radar in a really significant way. It sounds like it is. I know Instagram is where, you know, all the teenagers are, and Facebook is now Mom Book, and so that might be, you know, what the disparity with numbers there. And I think just commenting that I have appreciated the videos and the more imagery and the links and things like that do reduce the big chunks of text. And we are just a society on information overload. And just to reaffirm what you already know, that we need to be exposed to information repeatedly, and we need that echo chamber. And so when you're repeating things on all these different avenues, it might seem redundant to you because you're putting that message out over and over. But those of us who are scanning multiple sources of information from, you know, hundreds of emails a day or whatever, it's really useful kind of to break through. And that's, I think, one of the biggest challenges we're up against. Thank you.
Thank you.